What is real estate wholesaling? Glad you asked. Welcome in, guys. This is Anthony, and in today's video, I kind of just want to I just want to explain what is wholesaling real estate. So, simply, real estate wholesaling is when you find a distressed property owner, whether it's a distressed property or a distressed situation or a combination of the two. You find them in a situation where they might need me to sell. Maybe the house is run down and they don't have the money, or they don't want to put the money into it, and so they're willing to sell at a discount. Maybe they're in a distressed situation. Maybe they're going through a pre-foreclosure, a maybe they have a code violation on the property, and the code violation is starting to really add up, or it's a code violation for a reason that they can't fix, and so they're just going to get fined for it every single day without being able to ever fix it. So eventually, they're going to want to sell because the code violations start to add up. Maybe it's going through probate. They inherited the property. They don't want the property. Maybe they can't afford, the yearly taxes on it. Whatever the case may be, there could be multiple reasons as to why they would want to sell and sell at a discount. But that's the beginning part of it. And then what you do is, once you agree on a price, you get the property under contract. You then find an investor who would want to actually flip the property, and you assign your contract to them through an assignment of contract. So say you get the property locked up for $100,000. Say you sell it to an investor for you assign the contract to an investor for $125,000. You get that $25,000 difference. You can get that in the form of a check or wired to your account. And essentially, that's what wholesaling real estate is. Obviously, the steps in between, like how to find the sellers and stuff like that, which I will get into a little bit later in this video, so stay tuned for that. So stay tuned for that. Gonna be great. So without any further ado, So how does wholesaling actually work, in more of a step-by-step way? So you would say go to your county clerk's office, or your city, county. It really depends, and you would pull, say, like code violations. I myself am actually currently calling my code violations list. So you'd get your code violations, you would get your probates, you would get your list pendants, which is pre-foreclosure if you're able to get it. I can't get that in my city. Fire damage properties list, water shut-off list is a very hard list to get. In the vast majority of cities and counties, you cannot get that water shut-off list. I can't get it in mine either, but if you can, that's going to be the most motivated list you have, because you can't live without water, obviously. So you'd want to go to your city's utility department to get that, and all of that jazz. So you want to get as much government list as you can. That would be a distress situation, and you should be able to get a deal relatively quickly. I believe it's like 300 to 400 calls to a deal typically with government lists. For example, my code violation list that I currently have is like 200 something total. So that's a good chunk of the calls. There's actually a decent chance I have a deal somewhere in that list, which I should finish calling it today. So we'll see if I lock anything up. But you want to get all of that stuff. There are also paid lists you can get, but those aren't as effective because everybody else is calling those lists. Not too many people are calling the government list. Rather, they don't know how to get them. They don't want to just go to the city to get them, because a lot of cities now, it's really easy to get these lists. You have an online portal, and you can just get the list real simply. You don't even have to actually, call the county or the city, or you don't have to go into the courthouse or whatnot. You can just get the list all for free, all online. Certain ones I can't get. Also, tax delinquency, you would want. Tax lien is okay, but really tax delinquency is preferred. It would just be a better list to get. So you get those lists. You then have to get them in either a PDF or a CSV. A CSV is better because with the CSV, say for code violations, you'd want to look for specific ones like tall grass, debris, in yard, garbage/debris in yard, dilapidated properties. You'd want one that property condition or somewhere along those lines is the violation, and then you could delete all the ones that aren't those, and then you could just transfer that over to, say, Deal Machine. I'm currently on a free trial. You could send it over to Deal Machine, and that list will be skip traced for you, and you just call. Just in my case, I avoid LLCs and I avoid the do not call list. There are people out there who call the do not call list, and they're fine. Honestly, I think if you call the do not call list, it's just a matter of time before you get a lawsuit for it. And there have been wholesalers that have called the do not call list and then gotten sued for millions of dollars. So, an argument of, well, I'm not trying to sell them anything didn't work. So, just don't call the do not call list. It's right there in the name. But you just call them up, you ask, hey, I was calling about your property over at blah, 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 blah. Are you looking to sell that property by chance? See what they say. They may say no. They may hang up. If they say yes, then you be like, all right, so how much are you looking to get for that property? See if they give you a price. We are cold calling, so it might be hard to get a price. But say they come up with 150, be like, okay, how did you come up with that number? See what they tell you, and then you guys just have the conversation from there. You just figure out, okay, you want to get, you ask them what do you got going on with the property. I use the King Closes formula, by the way, on my calls. You ask them, okay, what do you got going on with the property? They start telling you the condition, they start telling you the list, then you get to the motivation, as well as finding out the condition at the same time with that one question. Super powerful. And from there, you can start negotiating down. You can be like, okay, so you got this, and then you can come up with a reasonable price, and you just educate the seller based on the things they've told you. You tell them, okay, so it's going to cost me about this much to repair this, cost me this much to repair this. You kind of just break down what your cost will be and why you're at the number you're going to be at. Don't know what my camera's doing here. Give me 1 second here. There you go, I fixed it. Kind of. I don't know what it's doing. This is gonna have to work. So you call them up. You'll be like, you call them up. Like, this is kind of where I'm at. This is why I'm at this price. There we go. Finally fixed itself. This is why I'm at this price based on, this will have to be done. This will have to be done. This will have to be done. You just educate your seller on why you're at the price and why it is a fair price. And then you get the contract signed. Hopefully you get it in one phone call, and then hopefully you keep them on the phone while you send the contract over, and then they sign it. So as soon as they sign it, you would explain what your next steps are, what the process looks like. You're going to take the title into closing. You're going to now start the process of title. Title will probably call them within 24 to 48 hours, which will also let the seller know, hey, this is actually happening. You have to know we're probably going to need pictures within the next day or two. Whether if it's vacant, if we can go in and get pictures ourselves, if you are local, that's better. I am local to my market, so if I do need to go get pictures myself, I can go do that. If the seller is able to get pictures, then obviously that would be ideal too. As soon as you get those pictures, then you want to start disboarding the deal. If you have cash buyers already, which if you don't, I will be having a video coming up within the next few days about how to get cash buyers, so stay tuned for that. But if you have cash buyers, you want to call up the cash buyers you have, say, hey, I got this property locked up. It's 125 ARV, or sorry, say it's like 225 ARV, needs 25 to 30,000 repairs. You'd be looking to make about $40,000 profit after holding costs, closing costs, all that. You want to look at things from the investor's perspective and not from the wholesaling perspective. In fact, when I'm calculating my stuff, I'll drop my assignments fee before I drop what I would be sending to the seller to see if I can get it within a number that works. Because my starting assignment fee is at $25,000, so if I have to drop it down to $10,000, I'll do that. If that $10,000 gets them a good deal, I'll drop it down to $10,000. That way I don't have to go back and renegotiate and potentially lose the deal. I'd rather make $10,000 than not make anything because the deal falls through because I had to renegotiate because I wasn't willing to drop my assignment fee. But that's just me. I didn't explain that all that well, but I think I explained it enough that you get the gist of how it works. That's basically the script when talking to motivated sellers. It's not so much of a script. You build rapport naturally through that kind of conversation. You know, you just gotta pay attention to what they tell you. Then you kind of just, you know, go off those pain points, and you can kind of come up with an offer from there. And so that's kind of that. So let's talk about what contracts look like. So obviously you'd have your purchase and sales agreement. I don't know what my camera's doing. You'd have your purchase and sales agreement. You would get that filled out. It's about 2 pages. The one I got from Flip with Rick. So if you want to find that contract, just, you know, look up their YouTube channel, or type in free wholesaling school. It'll be like the first one you see. School with SKOOL. It'll be the first one you see, or it should be the first one you see, and you can get their contracts in there. So you'd sign that with the seller. You would send that to title as soon as you get it signed. You send that over to title, get that process started immediately, and then as soon as you get pictures sent into you, you want to go to cash buyers. You don't want to go to cash buyers until you have pictures, because you don't want to waste their time. One of the first things they're going to ask you for is pictures. So if you don't have pictures, don't even try to dispose the deal to them yet. But as soon as you get pictures, send them a link to the Google Drive that has the photos. Let them look at what they have. Don't send them comps. They're going to do their own comps anyway. So you do that. Once you get the pictures, you get a buyer that's like, hey, yeah, I'm interested. Okay. You have them put down a $5,000 earnest money deposit on your contract for the assignment. You go away. Robots, I don't need to update you right now. You have them put down a $5,000 estimated deposit. You have them give you a proof of funds. Both of those things just ensures that, for one, the legit cash buyers, they honor the wholesalers and they're not going to daisy chain you. And then 2, it just shows that they do have the funds to close. I have currently only 3 buyers, but they have all agreed to give proof of funds when I send them a deal. As I learned yesterday, they can all close in a week if needed. So I have cash buyers who can close extremely quickly. They provide proof of funds, and they provide, you know, my earnest money deposit. So that's good. You want cash buyers like that. You don't need a lot of cash buyers. You just need a few really good cash buyers who can close quickly, who will provide you proof of funds, and who will provide an earnest money deposit. And then once you get that assignment contract signed, you'll then send that over to title, so title knows, okay, so your end buyer is the one who's buying the property, not you. And then they will wire you your assignment fee once the deal closes. And that's pretty much it. It's simple. It's not easy. That's just something I want to mention right there. Is it's simple, but it isn't easy. So now you're probably thinking, okay, what if I have no money? How do I do this? Glad you asked. I have no money either. I'm doing this with no money. So the way you do it is simply, like I said, you go to the county websites. You get as many of those government lists as you can. Probates, pre-foreclosures if you're able to get them. Water shut-off especially. If you can get the water shut-off list, call that list first. It will be the most motivated. I can't get that list. I've tried. I even used the Open Records Act in my state, and they said it doesn't apply to that. So it's gotten me every other list that I wanted, but it did not give me that one. So that one's a hard one to get. If you can get it, then absolutely go for it. Maybe get your arrest records too. That's the list not many people go after. I tried to get that list. I couldn't get that one. I can probably try again and get it. Get your tax delinquencies. Just get everything that you can that would show motivation, right? Probate's another good one. That's like a top 2 or 3 list. That's a better list for when you have direct mail. So if you don't have a direct mail budget, I wouldn't say skip probates. Still pull them and cold call them, but direct mail does work better on those. I'm not at the point where I can do direct mail yet, so I'm still cold calling that list. I'm pulling it like every couple of weeks. I was pulling it every week, but I'm only getting 3 to 5 properties at a time on that list, so I'm going to start doing every other week. So you want to do that. My camera today is just not wanting to work for me. So you want to get those lists. You then want to go through again with the code violations. You want to filter out, the ones that aren't really important, like a stalled car, an inoperable vehicle, an RV parked illegally. Those ones aren't going to really be motivating factors to sell, so you want to get rid of those ones and keep the ones that are related to condition of the property, trash and debris in the yard, because the debris could be from the house itself. It could just be from fallen trees. You never really know. But if there's trash on the outside, the inside might be that way too, and they might be motivated to sell, so you want to keep that. So all the ones that you end up keeping on the code violation list, you then want to send over to Deal Machine. Again, you can sign up for a week free trial. Sign up to Deal Machine, get that free skip tracing, call that list. I got a list of about 200, so you can call that in a day. Absolutely, you can call that list in one day. I called 20 to 30 yesterday. I was trying to work on a JV agreement that honestly wasn't priced well, so didn't work out. So I ended up not calling too much yesterday because I was trying to get that deal sold. Today I'm going to call from 2 to 7. I should absolutely have that list done probably by 5 or 6, and then I can move back to my high equity vacant list that I pulled. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. If you do just those lists, you should be able to get a deal. You should be able to get a deal with just all of those with all of those government lists. If you don't, there are a couple other things you can do. You can try to pull a high equity vacant, and if you filter it down right, which I will make a video on this eventually, if you filter it down right, you're going to get, the most motivated lists that you can get out of that. Now keep in mind, once you start pulling those kinds of lists, everybody else is going after those lists. So even when you filter it down, you're still talking to people who are getting calls all day long, 6-7 days a week, trying to sell that property. And so it's going to be really hard to lock up a deal there, but it is possible. But it's going to take 10 to 12,000 leads, more than likely, to get that. As opposed to 300 to 400 from your government list, which is why I'm saying to do government list. I'm not the only one who did this. Again, everything I've learned through Flipper Thrick. So, and RJ Bates with, the closers formula. So definitely go check their channel out. They're very helpful. They have a free course that teaches you everything A to Z in there. But yes, government list, the best list you can get. You're going to get the most amount of deals the fastest way possible. You should be able to get a deal within 30 days. I'm about 30 days in now, but I also didn't start cold calling until like 2 weeks in. So if I want to say a month from cold calling, that's going to put me about, I say the 15th of next month. So we'll see if I can get something by then. But definitely do the government list. Then you want to do maybe a high equity vacant. Maybe you want to do high equity tired landlords. That's a really good one to go after. So you could definitely go after those instead. There's multiple things you can do. I will eventually again make a video all about pulling lists, all about government lists and stuff like that. There's also a website you can go to. Again, this will be in another video, where you can get free government lists. Sometimes it's just a link to the website to pull it yourself. Other times it's a list already done, with code violations and stuff like that, and you can simply just have it export as a CSV. Again, the same thing. You'd want to go through, get rid of all the code violations that don't matter, but then you're still going to have a list of 300 to 400, which, based on the numbers, you should have a deal in there. If you don't, it should only take one more government list, and then you get a deal. So that's very powerful, and those are completely free as well. I will make a separate video on that probably sometime next week, so stay tuned for that. So some of the biggest mistakes newbies make. I'm a newbie myself, so I still make mistakes, believe me. The biggest one is you don't take enough action. You pull all these lists, you get all this data, you do digital bandit signs. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a later video. You're on Facebook, you're networking, you're getting cash buyers, but you aren't actually talking to sellers. You're not cold calling. Maybe you're very anxious on that. Believe me, I'm a very introverted person by nature. Cold calling was the biggest hurdle for me to get over. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I don't even really get that nervous when cold calling anymore, which if you would have asked me that a week ago, I'm talking literally a week ago, that seemed impossible. A week ago, I was calling up people. So really, if you want to get technical, a month from cold calling is basically the 20th of next month is how long I should have before I'm at a month. But I would ring the phone. I would call. Somebody would actually answer. I'd be like, oh, somebody answered, and I would hang up. Don't do that. If you hang up, you might be hanging up on a deal. And it's 10:25 my time. You might be hanging up on a deal if you do that. So please just make sure you're good. You know what to say. They can't physically hurt you. If they cuss you out, you can hang up and block them, and that's it. Yesterday I got hung up on 5 or 6 times. Everybody I got a hold of, they never said no. They just hung up when I asked, hey, I was wondering if you were looking to sell blah, 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 property by chance. And they hung up. It's no big deal. Call the next one. Keep going. You get cussed out, no big deal. Keep going. If somebody cusses you out and it really kind of gets to you, step away for 30 minutes to an hour, come back when you're refreshed, and just hit the phones again. So you got to be in the right mindset. You got to be in a good mindset. You want to be able to be like personable. When I call, I'm like, hey, is this blah, 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 blah. Hey, this is Anthony. I was just calling about your property over at 123 Main Street. I was wondering if you were looking to sell that property by chance. You got to be personable. You want to be high energy, right? And if they're low energy, you want to kind of bring yours down and master energy. But just be personable. Be yourself. Don't try and be somebody else that you're not. Whoever you learn from with wholesaling and whoever you learn to cold call from, don't try to be them. Say what they say. Maybe put your own spin on it. But be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else, because the person on the other end of the phone is going to know based on how you're acting, because it's going to come across weird. So you got to be yourself. You got to be genuine. That's really the biggest mistake I see is you're not taking enough action. You're not tracking your phone calls. Me personally, I'm not really looking at KPIs, but at the end of every day, I go through and I look at how many phone calls I made. So even though I'm not like actively tracking it, I'm aware of how many calls I make in a day. I'm making anywhere from 80 to about 150 right now. Today, I'm going to get through the rest of that code violation list, so I'm going to be right around 170, 165 calls today. If I'm done before 7 o'clock, then I'm going to go back onto my other list and keep hitting it. So that's kind of it. I guess another one that newbies make is, this video has gone way longer than I thought. I do apologize for that, but this is stuff to say. So I feel like another mistake newbies make is they don't have good relationships with cash buyers. And I have a perfect example of something that just happened to me yesterday about that video I was talking about. So I sent over a deal. The person I was trying to JV with was like, hey, they need to close this in a week. Do you have buyers who can do that? He didn't want to give me details because he's been, done bad by other wholesalers before. So with the very little details I had, which was ARV and repairs, which I couldn't even underwrite myself because I didn't have the address at the time, I just sent it over to cash buyers like, hey, would you be able to close in a week? I know that's quick, so I'm just wanting to make sure. And I had 2 cash buyers come back and say, oh yeah, I can close in a week. I just need more details. So I sent over the details to one when I finally got them without underwriting the deal myself first. Come to find out, once I underwrote it and after I had already sent it to the buyer, my ARV was about 182 instead of 225. Rehab was right, but ARV was off by about 20-30,000. They were asking 135. I think the end buyer needed to be about 105 for that to be a really good deal. They would have made, and even then they would have made, $1. They basically would have been at 1-to-1 repairs to profit, and that's assuming a $10,000 assignment fee. Or no, that was assuming a $15,000 assignment fee. They would have needed to be all in about 105. And that's assuming it's cash and they don't need hard money. If they need hard money, that's not a deal at all. So, that was my mistake. I even texted back my cash buyer who I sent that to saying, hey, that's my bad. I was kind of just rushed because they said they need to close it in a week. Because they had texted me saying, yeah, this doesn't look like a good deal for us. And so I was like, yeah, that's my bad. Once I ran my numbers, I realized the ARV is about 180. You probably needed to be in about 105. That's my bad. I won't do that again when I send you a deal. It'll be a good deal. I said, no worries, send me the next one. Just take accountability, right? If you do mess up like that, own it and take responsibility with your buyers. You want to keep good relationship with buyers, especially when you have a buyer who can close in a week. that's huge, because if a seller, if you get one under contract and they want to close in 2 weeks, so you got set closing for 14 days, you need buyers that can close in a week. They can move quickly, they can close in a week. Obviously, you get paid a lot quicker in those kinds of transactions, but more importantly, you don't want to have cash buyers who can close in a week and then you ruin relationships with them for whatever reason. So definitely make sure, if you make a mistake on numbers, you own it. Let your cash buyers know, hey, I realized this is where I should have been at, so I'm sorry for sending you this deal if it wasn't good. And then you'll keep a good relationship with a cash buyer instead of you send them a bad deal and then it sours the whole relationship. Especially because this was the first one I sent a buyer, so I owned it. One thing I'm going to do, I haven't heard anybody else talk about this. I know they say I've heard people say you want to follow up with your cash buyers on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, even if you don't have deals, to keep a relationship. One thing I'm going to do Monday is I'm going to be calling my cash buyers, kind of doing an introductory call saying, hey, I just wanted to have a quick call here just to kind of let you know, the kind of deals I'm trying to send and set up is I'm looking at it from the standpoint of an investor, not a wholesaler. I'm wanting to send you deals where you're as close to 1-to-1 in repairs to profit as possible. Obviously, the more repairs that you need to make, the harder it's going to be to do that. But I want to get you as close to that as I possibly can. That way, when I send you a deal, it's a really good deal, and hey, if I send you a deal, it's a deal you want to look at. It doesn't need to be more than a 5-minute phone call, but it just lets them know, what they can expect going forward. And it starts off that relationship, and then from there, just every 1 or 2 weeks, call, follow up, see how they're doing. If they have a family, see how their family's doing. It's pretty easy. If you have a good relationship with cash buyers too, they'll pay you what you ask more often for a deal. If they come back and renegotiate and you have a good relationship with them, then your numbers are a little off. So you guys got to work with that. But they're much less likely to try and take advantage of you or whatnot if you have a good relationship. And plus, real estate's just it's a relationship business. So that's the stuff you got to do. A couple more things before I close off here, and I'm going to kind of speed rest this part. Wholesalers are scared to work with realtors, which I used to be as well, but it's 2025 now. More and more real estate agents are wholesaling themselves or working with wholesalers a lot more. It's a lot more common now. You can outright tell an agent you're a wholesaler and they'll still work with you. I was in the Flippers Wick Discord, and somebody in my local market is a wholesaler, but they are also a real estate agent. So I give them a text, said, hey, blah, 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 I said, hey, I introduced myself, whatnot, so I now have a relationship with him. What's good about this, too, is if I do get a deal locked up and I can't dispo it for whatever reason, he has cash buyers, and so I have somebody who I could potentially work with if I needed to, and then I can still get 50%. 50% of a deal is better than none. And then one of my cash buyers, and actually the one I just told you about who I sent the text to and whatnot, is a realtor as well. So 2 of my 4 connections that I have so far are actually real estate agents or realtors. So it's pretty cool, and they're good to have because they for the most part are pretty good with numbers, especially if they know what they're doing. They can comp really well. So if you also just need help comping a property, I have 2 people I can go to get ideas on what the numbers should be at. And so that's a massive connection to have. So definitely do not be afraid to work with real estate agents or realtors, because those are good connections to have. Absolutely. I feel like there was one more I was going to say, but I can't think of it now. So I'm just going to close off here because this video is basically 30 minutes long. If you stayed all the way to the end, I appreciate you. Drop some likes on this video if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you never miss an offer from me. I will see you guys later. Peace.